Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back for another post-apocalyptic game review. This time, as promised, Wretched Apocalypse by The Red Room, written by Joe COOMBS and the phenomenal Miguel. I'm going to butcher your name, so I'm not going to say it properly, but I'm going to give my best shot. RIBIERO? Let me know if I got that right or wrong. Sorry if I got it wrong, but I've never actually heard it before, so once I hear it, though, I'm usually pretty good on stuff like that. But I picked this up from Lulu because I absolutely love the Wretched universe game system, with a few suggestions, and there's a few things I'm not a huge fan on, and I discovered a couple of more things that I'm not thrilled about, but we'll get into that. I really did love this book. It's one of easily the top two post-apocalyptic games out there that I'm aware of anyways. There may be something else that, like I never played Aftermath. I think I read it way back in the day, but I don't remember liking it enough to want to go there. And while I am a huge Gamma World 2nd Edition fan, there are, some things wrong with it as well. No game out there is perfect. Every game out there needs some tweaking and some modifications to fit your table style. Not that the rules are inherently bad, awful, or wrong. Sometimes they are. But I really believe that every game's going to get tweaked in the long run. Now, I really do suggest playing whatever game you sit down to play, rules as written, the first couple of times, maybe a whole campaign if you can manage that, before adding new rules. And of course, if you're going to add new rules, document them, write them down, make sure all your players have access to that information so that everybody's on the same page, because that's the very least you can do. If you're gonna modify a game, you got to make sure that you do so properly so that there are no mistakes or any confusions. Right off the bat, this one's probably 200 and some odd pages. Oh no, 325. Digest size, well put together by Lulu, of course. Sorry, I don't like doing any business with drive-through, and I know most of your stuff isn't there or none of it's there. Still iffy on that, but then again, I have my own issues with drive-through. They make great books when it comes to the printing and binding, but over the years they've taken the things I've wanted to buy off the market. Whether that's their fault or not doesn't matter. The result is the same. There's less and less I want to buy from them. But Lulu got this to me in very short order, and the artwork is as always, Miguel, stunning. If 90% of this is AI, you have made the argument for AI better than anybody else. And those aspiring artists, good luck. You're going to need it, because this is a perfect example of why your jobs are going to be no different than any other job, and the celebrity status that many of you are looking for, just unwarranted, and the competition is going to be stiff. But the artwork throughout this entire book was stunning, absolutely gorgeous. I could see where Miguel may have cut things off or edited or clipped things out. Even the hands and feet all look good, which tends to be one of those issues with faces and things like that. And like this one, can you see that? Does that not look exactly like a certain actor we've all grown up with? If that's not him, I don't know, man. I saw it and instantly I'm like, Reverend Jim, just saying. You know. Now, let's get into the things that I didn't like, and then I'll go back into more of the things I like. Always start with the bad news first. First thing I didn't like was the fragility of equipment. The rules that you guys came up with just are just, it's only a matter of game sessions before, from my understanding, whatever it is, unless it's a brand new item, and I'm not sure if you apply the rules to something like that, if it's a brand new item, or maybe not brand new, but right out of the package, like you find a suitcase that's been sealed since before the apocalypse and it's still in the same condition. You still need to use those kind of rules. Otherwise, the rules just, depending on the item, obviously, in question, most things that were made, especially when it comes to like firearms and weapons that are manufactured, tend to have a longer shelf life than 20 swings and you're done. Just that's how my mind works. If you're using a D20 to see when it, or if it breaks after 20 times, you're on borrowed time. Moving on. The mutants in most games. Now, I mind you, this is your vision. Most mutants have something appealing about them, even if it, and I'm not talking just visual looks, but something appealing to the mechanics or the abilities or the advantages that make them, fun to play. Like half-orcs, for example. Sure, they're ugly and mean as crap, but they still had advantages that appealed to a large percentage of the gamers that I'm familiar with. And the mutants in this book, just I can't ever see wanting to play them. Making them as bad guys, absolutely. That's and going along with your vision here. If that's what you're shooting for, awesome, home run. But if you think you're going to get a lot of players wanting to play them, maybe it's just me and I'm not seeing it. Then again, if I go outside where I live, they're already there. We've already got mutants out there that I just pity and feel very sorry for and wish them the best of luck, but then I get as far away from them as possible. The creatures, I like what you have, but I would like more info on each creature. They're just a little too vague, a little too simplified to really get as much out of them as I have out of monsters and creatures from other game systems. A couple of things I think would be helpful would be the size of the creature. I noticed that some of the creatures, I couldn't tell how big they were other than by looking at hit dice, and if hit dice is always going to equate to size, maybe put that in there, and you maybe just make a generic chart saying, okay, a 2 hit die creature is always between X and Y, and a 10 hit die is from A to B, something like that, or just add another category, size or weight or something like that, so we get an idea of how big they were, especially some of the smaller critters like the rat-like things and stuff like that. Are they dog size? Are they big dog size? Are they the size of a Volkswagen? That could add a lot to the horror factor, especially if it's got more than one hit die. To me, that could be a small pony-sized giant rat versus okay, it's only this big, but it's still got a hit die. That could add to the flavor and the horror. Speaking of flavor, I'd like to see a little bit more lore on the creatures and how they're different from, or how they're the same as, creatures of a similar nature that we've seen elsewhere. Along with a little bit of info on the habitat would help, so that we would maybe know when and where would be a great place to place them. If it's more common in swamps, maybe put that in there. Mind you, I doubt you're gonna add any of this, but this is what I would do or recommend, or at least advise anybody who's interested in buying a copy of this and running it. Which, if you're into post-apocalyptic games, I definitely think this is easily top 2 best games out there. But yeah, any more information on the critters, because you do such a great job with describing everything else. The monster section was just like, and you're done. And I'm like, I know you got a limited amount of space that you can put in, a book, but another couple of pages, just beef up the monsters with a little bit more, descriptive and lore-wise information to make them your own, so that we, that's one of the great things about the monster books is, a giant shark in one game might be very different from a giant shark in another game, like Ardoin, where they fly. You make them your own, and then you get kind of that little sort of trademarky aspect to, these are, Wretched giant sharks versus Ardoin giant sharks, or so something like that. Then I found a couple of instances that I'm not sure. It seems like it was a typo where you would say bleeding edge, and I'm wondering if you meant to say leading edge. Different. My brain goes to a different place when I think of either, and bleeding edge is a phrase I've never heard before, except, I've really never heard that before. But if you meant leading edge, right off the bat on page 125, paragraph 3 of this book, second edition, that was one of the instances of it, and it could have been one of those things that I get with my devices where the spell check and grammar check, because I made a mistake, it's now a permanent thing, and it'll keep trying to fix that mistake against my desires. Last couple of things. I realize the vehicle rules are probably elsewhere, but a little bit more information on vehicle rules, especially when you think about movies like Mad Max and Death Race 2000. A little bit more info on vehicles, maybe even some more vehicles, in a book like this would have been a great idea. As well as, a reference to the old Death Race 2000, or Gaslands, or Car Wars, or Mad Max, some sort of, mention of a death race, or an organized sporting event, or some such, bringing the vehicles and cars and that sort of thing into it. As well as, I would have liked to have seen some higher tech things from the bygone era to, show a little bit more about what the world used to be like, because it for the most part, it just seems like a little bit more advanced version of our own world, which is fine if that's, when you want the apocalypse. I think you said something like 2060 or some such. Okay, that doesn't put it too far, and that allows everybody to be able to imagine what it would be like. But when you throw in technologies and other things, material things, it allows us to get a better idea of what it might have been like before the apocalypse, because we can all more or less picture what the apocalypse is going to look like after the fact, whether it be 50 years or 1,000 years. We kind of get the idea from the various imagery we've seen over the years of what it would look like. And with the technological additions, I would add, more gadgetry, spend a little time coming up with the gadgetry, just things, Gamma World had a lot of devices that even after all these years, if you say a black ray pistol, everybody's like, ooh, and they know exactly what that is because of the 40 plus years of Gamma World being played, and they've got their own little lightsabery kind of additions to the game where it's like, oh, okay, this is one of the trademarks, cornerstone items that everybody's hoping to find or experience or even run away from. So maybe coming up with more gadgets next time, as well as the firearms. I know you're not a gun guy, but if you ever need help from a gun guy, I would recommend myself, DM James, or Victor Gorchev. The three of us probably know more about guns than anybody else out there. There might be some other people who are like, hey, I know a lot about guns. Well, okay, cool. Maybe they could help you out, but I noticed there were a few things that I'm like, it's not really how that works, or that's not really exactly accurate. But otherwise, it's a really small list. Now, on to the stuff that I really liked, besides the other stuff that I mentioned, which is always the writing style, the attention to detail, the skill at which you've put together the last two books that I've read. I really, really enjoyed the settlement rules. I'm getting ready to do a video about something similar but in a medieval fashion. We've already talked about that. But what you put in here about creating a town or a settlement, a village, or some sort of enclave of the vestiges of humanity, you did a phenomenal job relying mostly on random charts, but each and every one of the line items in those charts all go together one way or another perfectly, and you didn't miss out on anything. You didn't leave any of the, well, what about this or what about that? You really did your homework and made it really easy for players to start off, even if they don't roll randomly on the line items or the charts. You could pick and choose and really come up with something very unique, or have a very personalized style. You want this little village to be like this, and all of that is possible. One of the next things that I was a really big fan of was the overall setting. I really liked the way you described everything with the history of the before times and all the detail you went in with, sort of prophesizing what you think I guess might happen, could happen, very likely to happen in some cases, which is kind of scary because you're spot on. You pay attention to current events, and not just your local area current events. The setting, another aspect I really liked was the beyond, where you are adding or incorporating or allowing for the incorporation of the beyond, the supernatural aspect. I really like the idea of adding that. It's really something that doesn't happen a lot in most post-apocalyptic games. I know there's a couple out there, Dark Conspiracy and the one that Palladium did, where you're adding the vast volumes of supernatural lore in the way of the darker side of the supernatural, and that adds, you guys know I'm a big fan of anytime you take two genres and you put them together, you get something that is far more than the sum of its parts. And your additions of the darker aspects of the supernatural make for a very, very interesting and bleak and wretched apocalyptic scenario. Another thing that I was a big fan of was your secret societies, not the same old, obvious tropey sort of Gamma World stuff where you've got the pro-human, Knights of Genetic Purity and the different factions of animals and etc. You have things that are more based on what seem to be ideologies and politics more so than character classes or races or professions. It makes it a lot more believable and a lot more engrossing and engaging, as opposed to it's just about mechanics or what's on your character sheet. Okay, well then you'd clearly want to join this or that group. Everybody else would hate you. No, you've made it so that you could, just about anybody could try to infiltrate anybody else's organization with a little homework, etc. But all in all, guys, pick this one up. If you haven't picked up Wretched Country or this one or the basic Wretched RPG game, absolutely at least start with the Wretched RPG, which I believe is still free for download PDF style, which I will be making amends and getting a hard copy of that. But first I got to go buy Wretched Vigilantes, because I'm a man of my word and I said I would get it, so I will get it this month, and that'll be the next Wretched RPG review. Miguel and Sylvia and Joe, if you guys want to comment later and answer any of my questions or statements, or say no you got it all wrong, that's what the comment section is for. Otherwise, you know where to find me on Discord. I gotta go make some dinner, but thanks everybody for playing along and giving this one a shot. I really look forward to running this one at some time. I just gotta find some characters, or excuse me, some players who want to make characters, in which case I could do that, but probably would have to be after the summer, because I'm kind of booked for the next 3 to 4 months. But there you go, folks. At least an A plus, maybe an A, if you want to take in the negatives. But I think all of those could be handled with a little tweaking of your own. So until next time, folks, happy trails. I will see you guys later.